All right, good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the Planning and Land Use Management Committee. I've been joined by the Honorable Councilman Jack Weiss. I understand Councilman Wisa will not be making it today, but we do have a quorum. We have several items in today's agenda, over 17. And there are some items we could dispense with, so let's go down the agenda. And we'll take on the items that we could deal with right away. On item 2, I believe we can refer to the planning department in consultation with the city attorney. That's number 2. Numbers 4 and 5, saying no cards, we will move on consent. On 6, I do have a couple of questions. I'll call down on special. Items 7, 8, and 9 have cards that have been submitted. Item 10, seeing no cards, we could approve and have the city attorney prepare ordinance authorizing execution of the development agreement, and that's item number 10.
Yes, the development agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be the action. And 12, we'll call special. 13 is consent. 11, we will continue 1 week. Yeah. So that'll be item 11. Getting back to 12, we'll call that special. 13 on consent. 14 special due to cards. And 15, 16, A and B are all 3 special, given the cards that have been submitted. So with your second, we can move the items on consent. Thank you, Councilman Weiss. Okay. Now, folks, as you can tell, the acoustics are not the best in this room. It's hard to hear every word. So that being the case, if you have a conversation, please, let's show some courtesy and we'll take it outside. When you come to the microphone, please give us your name and address. And as you reach the podium, you will see to your right, my left, a clock. And because of the number of items that we have today, we're going to give everyone 1 minute to speak. Otherwise, we'll be here even longer than you can even think. So we'll do 1 minute for all of the different speakers. We have over 17 items. And so I appreciate your patience and your cooperation. I know many of you have written some very eloquent letters. And what happens is that you begin the letter and don't reach the final point. So I highly recommend that you get to the point
11.
as soon as you can within that 1 minute. If someone has made a statement that you agree with, it's okay to say, I agree with the previous speaker, and give us something different or new so that we can do our necessary deliberation on the matters before us. So Roberta, that being the case, can we call up our first item, which I believe is Commissioner, correct?
Yes, Councilman. It's the appointment of Ms. Barbara Romero to the Planning Commission.
Good afternoon, Ms. Romero. As she makes her way to the microphone, thank you for taking the time and joining us here in City Hall. I understand that you are a former member of another commission?
Yes, I am. I've had the opportunity to serve on the South Valley Planning Commission for actually 3 years now. And it was actually, I don't know if this means of, being considered to be elevated as a thing that I got a good grade from the city staff or a bad grade. So So I'm actually had the opportunity on there to really get to see, when I was being asked to be considered for this, I was kind of hesitant because I really liked working on cases where you get to make decisions on the neighborhood level and really help improve and work with the different stakeholders and the different interests to come with proposals for projects and mitigations that really make sense for those specific neighborhoods. So that's where I was for 3 years. So.
Well, one, I want to applaud you in your work, and maybe you could just give us a little background about the skill set you bring to the commission?
What I would bring is what I do bring to not only my day job, which I work for the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, trying to identify parkland and then create it into open space or greenways or and parks with that create more sustainable communities. So I would do the same thing, which is always look at it case by case, look at the entire picture, and then just come up with some common sense approaches to make some decisions that benefit the entire project. And in this case, it's actually looking at how you know, as a commissioner, looking at what really is our jurisdiction and what's our job is to really advise not only the planning department, but the council and the mayor to really make some sound policy recommendations based on our experience on case-by-case basis. So there's two roles that we play, not only helping to improve the case-by-case projects, but from that experience, building and creating some policies that improve the current proposals or plans that are out there at this point.
And as
I can
advice,
elaborate some more if you want, because I could talk about this all day.
well, thanks for the warning.
I'll try to be brief.
Just kidding. What would you like to walk away with once you leave this commission? What would you see? What would you like to see?
I would like to see the Alley River, or some of the Alley River plan being implemented, and I'm not just speaking because you're part of that, is because I believe in that. I also would like to see how we can create more walkable communities, more livable communities. I think, as I was mentioning to you, growing up in Boa Heights, I think growing up with not a lot of means, not having a car when we were kids, you create a neighborhood and a walkable environment, so you don't have to drive to your grocery store. You go to parks, and you go to movie theaters, you go do your shopping, and all your daily necessities, you do it in a more sustainable way. So it's actually, how can we replicate doing that, and providing actually, in addition to that is, I'm trying to see how I can do what I do on a full-time basis, is how we can increase more green space in the city of Los Angeles. So, and also another thing is the bike plan. I think for me it's really important. If I had a way, I usually bike to work maybe once a week. And what the reality is, I have to park my car at the zoo. I park my car at the zoo, and then I take my bike. I take my bike in the back of my car, park my car at the zoo, and then get on the Alley River, and then it breaks off, and then I go on Riverside the rest of the way to the River Center. So for me, it's also, how can we create more connections for people that can really actually, live a more sustainable life. And I think that infrastructure is the number one source, and what better place to do it but in the Planning Commission. So
Fantastic. Well, again, I appreciate everything you've done for the city, your volunteerism, your sense of spirit in making this city a much more livable place. And just as a side note, we do start construction on the bike path from Fletcher to the Riverside Bridge any week now. So everything's in place. It took us 5 years to clear the legal issues, but we're finally there. So I want to thank you. I'm going to recommend that we support you, and I'll be seeing you on the council floor. And Councilmember Weiss, do you have any questions for our candidate? And I don't think he does. So that being said, I look forward to speaking with you, and we have the forms already in place for the ethics.
Yes.
I believe for Ms. Romero, we did get the ethics form today.
Yeah, I filled them all out and I submitted
It is
them.
completed, and we
Okay,
have the
great.
form.
So would you want to take care of some of the,
We've scheduled the matter in council for the 24th,
for what day?
June the 24th.
June 24th. So that'll be the day in council. All right? Well, thank you again, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Take
Thank you
care.
for this consideration. and
Thank you
time.
very much. Okay, so that takes care of item number 1. Roberto, what's the next item?
I believe item 3, Councilman, and it's a planning department report. It's a city planning commission proposed ordinance to revise the definition of hillside areas and a proposed ordinance map.
Okay, we have some speakers on this item, and quite a few cards, actually. So, that being said, please introduce yourself. Good afternoon.
For the record, Eric Lopez, City Planning. I'm going to keep it short because I'm sure you're going to be hearing from a lot of people here.
But let me ask you the one question,
Yes,
as succinctly as possible.
yes.
What is the purpose of this action?
Okay. When we were establishing the baseline mansionization ordinance, we were instructed to amend the current hillside area definition in order to identify lots that were truly not hillside by both the City Planning Commission and the City Council. So this is just a response to that.
I missed it.
Essentially, all we're doing is what I just said, removing the areas that are really not hillside from the hillside area designation.
Okay. Now, I'm going to do something very different because I committed an error, and I'm going to ask you to pause.
Okay.
But I did want to ask Mary Benson, Alley Trails Project, if you're still here for item number 1. Thanks for coming up, because I did miss your card. I did not see it, so I want to make sure you had your chance on item number 1.
Hi, Mary Benson from Los Angeles Trails Project, and Barbara's gone now, but I just wanted to congratulate her, and hopefully the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy is charged with another responsibility, which is Rim of the Valley Trail, and I think this is a great appointment to bring a voice for the environment, open space, and natural resources to the City Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, and I apologize, Ms. Benson. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Lopez.
So yeah, essentially, that's what we're doing. I'll repeat it again.
No, I think we got it. So,
Yeah.
anything else you want to add? Because I think we're going to hear from some folks.
Yeah. Essentially, just to make it clear, what we're doing here is amending the current definition, establishing a brand new one, and a brand new LA City Planning hillside area map that then we can more easily amend as we go along, as we get more. My time's up. As we get more data, so it should make it easier and a lot more streamlined in terms of identifying the city's true hillsides.
So, am I oversimplifying it when I say this map will reflect where the hills are located in Los Angeles and where they're not?
That is correct, based on topography.
So,
Not
the
street boundary.
existing maps that needed to be updated actually included flat areas and were labeled as hillsides when they in fact were not.
Yes, they were based on engineering grid maps that were kind of cut back over the years using major street boundaries. I believe the technology didn't really exist to make it all that feasible to then go citywide and analyze the actual slopes. And we have that technology now, so we've done that.
But it is possible to have made mistakes when maybe you might have excluded an area that is a hill.
That is actually, it's more likely that we included something than excluded something by accident.
Okay, well, let's hear from the folks first, and then we'll go back and make a decision on what action we will take.
Okay.
Okay, with that being said, we got the Reader's Digest version of a lot of work by our staff. So thank you, Mr. Lopez. And we have with us Bob Anderson, Jack Allen, and Noel Hune. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, my name's Bob Anderson, 4050 Woodcliff Road, Sherman Oaks. I chair the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association Hillside Ordinance Committee. And the association first heard about the city's intention to revise the hillside area definition at a public meeting in February, which I attended. They explained the revision and what it would encompass, but didn't explain any potential impacts that we could take back to our members. It impacts more than 1,300 homes that are being reclassified in Sherman Oaks and thousands in LA. And many of our homeowners have started to express concerns once they understood. And the concerns are typically like, what might the reclassification do to my property value? Why is my home no longer hillside when it's been hillside since I own it? Will it have any building and safety protections that I could lose? We were not given the time as homeowners to understand the revision and its impacts. We didn't receive notice about this meeting till Saturday, for example. And should it be approved, we can't help but wonder if there are grounds for a lawsuit by denying suitable public comment. Therefore, we recommend...
Go ahead, finish.
We recommend that the Plum Committee direct the Planning Department to conduct a further series of public meetings, and we think that the city has an obligation to notify homeowners of such changes, and this was not done because posting notices is not the same as mailing them, so we request the city attorney to determine if there can be a legal ruling on this accordingly.
Mr. Allen, let me ask you one question. When you make reference to property owners who feel that they will be impacted by this change,
they just don't know whether they will.
Let me finish the question. Are you suggesting that these are areas that have the label hillside when in fact they're flat?
Well, these are areas that were considered hillside under the prior definition and now will be
But are they physically flat?
Yes.
Or they are flat?
I don't know that they're flat. The people haven't said they thought they were hillside, but, you know, there could be a little slope. I don't know that for a fact.
Because I do recall some years back, I forget which area, but they actually added labels like hills when there was no hills. Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure we understood
Yeah, these
each
are
other.
just what some of the folks at the meetings have said to me
All right.
when I brought it up.
No problem.
They worry.
Just wanted some clarity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker?
Yes, Jack Allen, 15015 Bester Boulevard, Pacific Palisades. I'm the president of the Palisades Preservation Association. We strongly support the ordinance. I have checked, we have substantial or a significant a lot of property in the Palisades that is level or flat, as you would call it. And I have checked every one of the maps to ensure they're correct. I have checked with the dean of all appraisers who says it should not affect property values if this is adopted.
Well, thank you for that, sir. Okay, we have the next around here. Good afternoon. And Barry Johnson is with Councilman Garcetti's office. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Noelle Hyun, Planning Deputy for Council President Garcetti. I just wanted to come and, I guess, recommend a change to the map that you have before you. Our office had heard from several constituents in the Silver Lake area that were concerned that an area that should be included in the hillside area definition was not included in the map. In response to their comments and concerns, we convened a meeting between those constituents and Eric Lopez from the Planning Department, and I have, which I can submit to the file, a revised map which shows the one block that should be included. My understanding is that planning is able to make the findings to include that for that one parcel.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your advocacy. Our next speaker?
Barry Johnson, 4166 Farmdale, Studio City, and I'm here representing the Studio City Residents Association. We've seen the map, and as far as Studio City goes, we're in support of the map. It takes care of those areas south of Ventura Boulevard that our residents consider to be flatlands, and would bring it under the baseline flatlands mansionization, of which we're pursuing an RFA with the Planning Department now. And the residents that are in these flatlands want to be part of the flatlands, but are currently considered to be in the hillside just because they're south of the boulevard. So anyway, Studio City is happy with this, but we would ask that you listen to all our other communities surrounding, because I think there are several of them that have problems with it, and we wouldn't advise going forward with it until you resolve the issues with the other communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I have Diane Rosen, Lillian M. Wall, and Isabel Harper Smith. Would you like to come on up, please? No, everyone has their 1 minute, and that's how we're going to move on this.
Good afternoon. I'm Diane Rosen, Chair of the Encino Planning and Land Use Committee. We have not seen the map that Tarzana just got. In fact, I just saw it for the first time today, and Kathy tells me she got it on Friday. So we would like to ask for a continuance for us to study that. I know for a fact Encino Avenue South is listed as flat, where the lots are up above the street by quite a bit. So we would like for a continuance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rosen. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Lillian Wall, and I'm a homeowner in Tarzana, also representing the neighborhood council. We only received the map on Friday, and taking a look at it, there were a lot of errors. And Tarzana, the community of Tarzana has a different terrain than most of the other communities along Ventura Boulevard. On many streets in Tarzana, they start off flat. In the middle of the street, there's a house on a hill. The next one's flat, then the next one's a hillside. The neighborhood council voted to keep all of our properties south of Ventura Boulevard as hillside, so that we don't separate our neighborhoods and make it confusing for development. If a property is flat, it's flat. It's going to have the same guidelines as any flat property. If it's a hillside property, it's going to follow then the guidelines of the hillside. And I really recommend that we can continue this hearing until all the maps are studied, and each community in Los Angeles has an opportunity to see how it impacts them individually.
How much time do you think the neighborhood council would need if they wanted to review these maps?
How long would it take for the neighborhood council to review the maps?
Yes.
Well, we would like to gather our community together so we could get the input from the community. It would probably take us
2 weeks, 3 weeks?
At least 2 weeks. It could take us longer.
Okay.
I mean, we've already identified errors.
So 2 or 3 weeks would be a pretty good comfort margin.
It certainly would be helpful, but we would like more time, because we don't think it's just an issue for Tarzana. We think it's citywide.
No, I understand that, but I just want to get a feel,
Thank you,
being from the leadership of your council, how much time you think you would need, and I'm hearing 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, it would be helpful. The more time that we could get would be helpful, and I really appreciate that. 3 weeks would be helpful. More might be better, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker?
My name is Isabel Harper Smith. And
Can you speak to the microphone?
Sorry, I'm giving my time
No, ma'am.
to Jeffy.
No, ma'am, I'm going to just 1 minute for you and 1 minute for her.
Yes, that's
No, I'm telling you, that's the way we're going to do it.
Thank you. I'm Robin Jaffe. I'm a member of the AIA San Fernando Valley Board and a resident of the affected area in Tarzana. I attended most of these meetings, but it was at the meetings they never advertised to the residents. They didn't let the AIA know that these meetings were taking place, and so the meetings were very poorly attended. 5, 25, never more than 50 people at these meetings. The residents are unaware of the impact that this has on their properties. The reason in Tarzana we have a problem is because we have many large properties. These properties are RA and RE, primarily RA. And in the baseline ordinance, those properties are limited to only 20% of the lot area for development, whereas in the R1, they're limited to 50%. So on the large properties, there are far greater restrictions than on the small properties. And it's really unfair to the people who haven't already developed their home in a large style, like so many in our area.
I invite you, if you can put that in writing, that would help as well.
I have that for you.
Beautiful. So you can submit that to the clerk, And that way we can review your material.
I'm sorry, could you say that
If
again?
you can submit that to the clerk, that way we could review the material later. Thank you very much. All right, I'm assuming Ms. Smith did want to pass up her 1 minute, so we'll move on to our next group of speakers. Kathleen Dunn, Leonard Schaefer, George Wolfberg,
Council office.
and Alba, don't want to mispronounce her name, Boaz. Good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon. Kathy Deladani, representing the Tarzana Neighborhood Council. I chair the Land Use Committee. And I had given all the committee members a letter from me with attachments that clearly show one glaring mistake in the plan. This is the map that I just received on Friday. We want to be able to bring this back to our community. A lot of just like all over the city, a lot of people don't have computers, and just to say, well, go on the computer, you'll see it. It can't be done. You have to have a map in front of you, and this is what we needed to go back to our community, to review the flatlands and hillside, what is accurate and what isn't accurate, and we would appreciate a continuance on this. I would say probably at least 60 days, because we're Brown Acted, and by the time we notify people of the meetings, et cetera, it's going to take that long to make sure that we do all of the mistakes and correct all the mistakes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Daldani. Leonard Schaefer. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Leonard Schaefer, Chair, Tarzana Neighborhood Council. First, let me say I support, and the Neighborhood Council supports a revision with regards to this whole hillside and flatline. However, we have not had sufficient time to review.
Again, just for clarity, revision of the map or revision of the definition?
Revision of the definition and the map. But the problem is, I just downloaded that map. That's a 24 meg file. And to look at it on a computer is somewhat ridiculous. None of us have a large HP plotter like I believe planning has to be able to print this out. I invited Mr. Lopez to come before the Los Angeles Neighborhood Council Coalition. I know he was busy. He was preparing for the CPC. We would have enjoyed an opportunity to speak with him about that particular map. Areas like Tarzana, south of the boulevard, are very unique in the number of streets we have. To look at a small map and try and determine exactly where you are is very, very difficult. You asked how much time we would need based upon our Brown Acted activities. I would say 60 days by the time we have a meeting, we review it, and have a chance to actually vote on it by the Neighborhood Council.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for participation as well. Good afternoon, sir.
George Wolfberg, 14107 Attila Road, Santa Monica, California, 90402. I'm the president of the Santa Monica Canyon Civic Association. We're the canyon that's between the Palisades and Santa Monica.
A little closer to the microphone.
We are truly hillside under this new definition. We've been watching closely, going to all the meetings. We've had Mr. Lopez to our last two annual meetings to brief our community. We call this 1.1 of this as you're moving on with your baseline. We're looking forward to 2.0, which will take care of us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Alba Burris? I believe it's B-E-R-R-U-Z or B-E-R-R-V-Z. Alba, are you here? Okay. Jonathan Brown, District 3. And that should be the final speaker.
Good afternoon, Chairman Reyes, council members. Jonathan Brown with Councilman Zine's office. We would like to see there be given sufficient time for Tarzana Neighborhood Council to review and make some official recommendations as to, what they feel is hillside and what isn't, by actually going street to street and doing notification and engaging the community. They just got the maps last week, so we would agree with Len and Kathy that 60 days should be sufficient.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That concludes the public hearing. Mr. Lopez, like to come on back up? Now, we've all heard the same thing. Can you give me some reaction? What do you suggest?
Well, regarding the Council District 13's request, we have reviewed their proposal. We've always been open to making modifications should they provide the adequate, evidence to prove otherwise. So we agree with that change that was submitted to your committee. We also would like to suggest that we make another change in the San Pedro area, essentially dealing with the harbor area where they took a hill, basically flattened it out and has cargo containers on it now. So that
now it's level.
It should be removed.
In real life?
In real life, yeah.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So let me submit that.
Now, how about the request for another 60 days to give the folks who feel compelled to add more information and have that deliberation amongst the stakeholders?
Betsy Wiseman here for the Planning Department and with Eric. We heard a lot of the testimony this afternoon, and there's a couple of things that I'd just like to restate so that everybody understands. We've used the term flat. However, it may be slightly misleading because what we're actually talking about here are the areas that are not hillside, meaning we used a 15% slope, so that areas can have a change in grade and still not be essentially really flat and still be considered non-hillside. So it's non-hillside. I think for shorthand purposes we referred to it as flat, but it's really non-hillside. So some of the information that we received in letters and photos were areas that had some slope to it, but they were not areas where there would be extensive retaining walls, where there would be extensive grading, or where development would involve the kinds of things that we see where it needs special regulations. Those are the kinds of areas that we're working on to have hillside regulations for those types of areas. Those types of regulations would not be appropriate on very gently sloping pieces of property. And that was why we felt that it was to the advantage of those areas that they would not want to have the more true hillside regulations applied to them, which is what we're working on. But we do understand that we certainly want to make sure that everyone is comfortable with this, that they do understand it. If there's areas that feel that that they don't have enough information or they want a little more discussion about this, we can certainly provide it. A number of things that you heard this afternoon, we also heard at the same issues at Planning Commission. They're not really new issues here, and we did make some references to the folks, I believe it was in Tarzana, the lady who talked about the RA area. There's kind of two issues that you heard. One is the removal of the hillside definition. The other is the application of baseline mansionization. And some of the folks I heard this afternoon were concerned not about whether they're hillside or not, but they were not happy with the application of baseline mansionization. There's 50,000 lots that would not have the protection of baseline mansionization until this is adopted. So there's been a lot of pressure also to move this along and have it go forward. So if we do take some extra time, we would hope it would be relatively short. And we also will change that RA on the areas. We understand that that may be necessary to convert them to a different zone when baseline mansionization applies. We already did that on Brentwood Park, and that was item, I think it's 5 on your agenda today, and we would do the same for those Tarzana areas should you go forward with this.
Okay, now, if I heard you correctly, the folks who came up from Tarzana that are very vocal today, you're stating that you've already met with them and had these discussions in the past? Mm-hmm. Yes? And how often did that happen?
Well, we definitely talked at the City Planning Commission meeting. We had a meeting in the executive office back in, let's see here, February, I think. Let me double check, but somewhere early in the year.
So you've had discussions before?
We had explained the particular impacts of the application of baseline, and I thought, I was under the assumption that we determined that the appropriate solution to the problem was changing the zone from RA to one of the REs.
And that would trigger some relief to their concerns.
There is, yeah, but it's not through the Hillside area definition.
So fundamentally, this definition, the intent was to lessen the hardships on neighborhoods so that they would not have to adhere to very stringent hillside standards given their slope.
Exactly.
And the 15% slope is the threshold that you've defined that triggers those more arduous commitments.
In addition to that,
so
yeah.
indirectly you're creating a relief for all the other neighborhoods who are below the 15%. So visually, you might not be level, there might be some slope, as long as it doesn't pass the 15%. And so in a way, you're creating some relief for those neighborhoods. That's the intent.
Yeah.
Am I hearing you correctly?
Theoretically, those are the lots that we'd already addressed under the baseline mansion.
Okay, and
You
this
stated it very
was
well.
discussed with the stakeholders of Tarzana.
Now, in terms
Okay.
of the application as well, if it also entails a different set of tools that might actually also help them even to better protect their neighborhood as well.
Well, I heard 60 days. I was thinking 2 weeks. So let's compromise. Let's say 30 days, okay? It'll give folks time to address you specifically. You've covered some of the issues during commission, and I think that's a middle ground perhaps we can live with. Mr. Lopez? Yes?
For the purposes of notices for individuals that are here now, we could probably schedule the item on the July 21st agenda tentatively, and they can always check in prior to that time.
So between now and July 21st, this will come back?
Hold on.
Oh, don't tell me you're graduating.
No, I may have a previously scheduled. I may be out of the office.
Well, let's shoot for 30 days and work around
30
that.
days, let's say, and we'll work around, and we'll definitely be able to meet with the people and set up a meeting. Okay, yeah, 30 days is fine.
Okay, so we'll compromise with 30 days, and hopefully the folks from Tarzana that are here, I want to thank you for coming to City Hall, but you'll have that engagement with them, and we'll be back here in 30 days.
Thanks.
Okay? Thank you very much. Mr. Lopez, you okay? All right. Thank you for your hard work. So 30 days it'll be. All right. Next item, Roberto.
Valuable item 6, Councilman, it's a report from the Planning Department in conjunction with DOT. It's in response to one of your motions on the city's implementation plan of Air Bill 1358.
Okay, now I'll go through this fast. I just have 2 questions for the staff on this item. Do I have staff here for item number 6? Anybody?
Yes, we do. Excuse me, Emily Gable is here for that item.
Okay, Ms. Gable.
Good afternoon, Claire Bowen, Los Angeles City Planning.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. We're here to report on the Complete Streets Act that of 2007 that actually went into that was adopted or went into effect on January 1st of this year. The act requires the city, upon revision of the transportation element of its general plan, to identify means for the routine accommodation of all users of the roadway, including motorists, pedestrians, bicyclists, individuals with disabilities, seniors, and users of public transportation. It only requires us to do that when we actually modify our transportation element. And actually, in the last couple of years, we've put in requests to update our transportation element. But obviously, with budgets being what they are, we haven't had the opportunity to do that. It still remains one of our highest priorities as a department. But fortunately, in the last number of years, we've had a lot of opportunities, and we're continuing to move forward on a lot of practices and policies and studies that will help us further implement the goals of making the city more of a have a lot more complete streets. there are a number of things we'll just kind of summarize from this report that I wanted to share with you today, things that we think that we're moving forward on, and also some of the things we've done in the past. I'm going to turn over to Emily first, and then I'll follow up.
Emily Gabeletti. Chairman Reyes, let me ask if you would like a full report, or would you like
Can you
to
just
ask
give me the highlights? The one question I wanted to ask was, is there a strategy citywide on how complete streets will be implemented to provide for all modes of travel?
We've been doing that now, and the latest example that came before your committee and the council was adopted in April, and that was redoing the streets for downtown LA. And in the process of doing that, for some of them, redelineating them so that they could accommodate pedestrians, bicycles, transit, automobiles, and provide for greater greening along the parkways. That's a very specific, focused effort that I think is a good precedent for other projects in the planning department to follow. We are coming forward in 2 weeks to our planning commission with a recommendation for approval of the urban design principles, 2 of which directly address complete streets. One is a principle calling for great green streets, and the second is to continue to emphasize walkability, bikeability, and well-being. So we're combining pedestrian and bicycling into one of the principles as well. Our request to the commission and to the council will be to amend our general plan framework to incorporate these new principles.
Great.
And that will move us forward from a broad policy point of view.
Fantastic. And the Assembly bill, is it making its way through the process? What stage is this in, do you know?
The Complete Street Acts bill, it was adopted, and it's actually implemented, effective as of January 1st.
Okay, so now
2009. So it's in effect now.
Okay, so it's done.
Right.
Okay.
But it doesn't require us to actually make those modifications until we do the revisions.
What I'd like to do is, if we can meet with my staff, and when it comes to council, I'll let the council president know that I'm going to ask for a presentation by yourself to the full council, because I want them to see what tools are in front of us, what legally can we do. And, we all talk about traffic, but no one's speaking to the nitty-gritty of, okay, how do we create relief? And so that would be my request of you. We don't have to do this now, but that would be something I'd like you to coordinate with my staff before the full council, that they can see what discretion we have and what strategies we can implement, given all the good work you're already doing.
Okay. We'd be happy to. Thank you.
Okay?
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
To instruct the planning and transportation departments to provide a periodic AB 1358 update as well. But we can coordinate that with yourself and District 1, CLA, and we'll put that presentation together before the council. Okay, next,
Not sure if you acted on item 7, Councilman, Mr. Smith's motion.
Time out. I missed the card again. Look at this. I don't want to miss speakers. All right, here we go. Dorothy Lee, I believe, Mary Benson, and Joe Linton. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Dorothy Le from Los Angeles County Bicycle Coalition in the Green LA Transportation Working Group. Good to see the report. It contains some good projects, and I would say some exaggerations upon how complete streets they are. I would just point out the bicycle plan update. It says that it will elevate LA to be one of the most bicycle-friendly streets, cities in the nation, and I would contend that sentence and that whole notion. And the state law doesn't say that we should do good projects. It says to routinely accommodate all users, that whenever the city changes a street or changes the design, planners and engineers need to design for all users. What we need is a change of, I'm glad that there's downtown street standards that are being changed, and I know we need to move forward on redesigning street standards for all of the city. Redoing the street designs for all the city, where this can be used as a tool for routine accommodation. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time. Ms. Benson?
Good afternoon again, Councilmember Reyes and members of the committee. I just want to say you shouldn't bite off more than you can chew. And by adopting specific plans for specific areas, the urban design team and city planning is looking at these piece by piece, because one size never fits all. In the rural areas of the San Fernando Valley, we also have horse people and people that are on trails, walking and hiking and running. It's not just pedestrians in high heels and skirts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Benson. Mrs. Joe Linton, I understand you have a production going on by the river?
Yeah, it's tomorrow through Sunday. Come out and touch the water.
Okay, touch the water, all right.
So,
good afternoon.
Joe Linton, Chair of the Green LA Transportation Working Group. I want to thank Councilmember Reyes and the planning departments, Claire Bowen and Emily Gable-Luddy, that there is a lot of, there are many good initiatives, and I think the report outlines that, but really the state bill is about routine accommodation, is every street and not a pilot here and a pilot there. And I think the list of pilots are sort of the exceptions that prove the rule. And I think that I would urge you to work with the Street Standards Committee, the internal committee to the DOT that works with street services and planning, and change the standard street design for the city, and not implement wonderful pilots in Chinatown and along the river, but actually the standards that apply to the whole city need to be changed to comply with the Complete Streets law.
Have any of the cities that you are aware of gone through that process where they've changed the standards?
Yeah, actually, New York City just came out with a wonderful thing that they're increasing space for pedestrians and bicyclists. They're doing separated bicycle tracks, but more, and that's obviously slightly different than Los Angeles, but more comparable cities would be like Austin, Texas, has a very good street design guidelines that routinely accommodate bicycle and pedestrian, and also have a greening element.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Linton. Okay, that concludes the item?
Item 6.
That was item 6. So we already did the instructions on 6, so we can move on?
Right. So the next item would be item 7, Councilman. I don't know if you continue this item. It's a Smith-Greer motion relative to horse trails.
We do have cards on that one. And let's hear from Mary Benson. She's on a roll. And you're wearing high heels.
You just scheduled everything I care about all in one day, so it really was nice driving from the valley. The continuance is necessary because, again, we need standards for the development. And I would just like to ask that these are not just horse trails. These are trails for walkers, hikers, bird watchers, and to remind the council, which I know since 2002 when he came to the Northeast San Fernando Valley, that there are a lot of people that this can add. Every 20-foot easement for a recreational trail, 264 feet equals 1 acre of parkland. And if you want to know how Boston and Sacramento and a lot of these other cities get their park ratios up, it's by putting in a 20-foot greenway with a recreational trail that has a natural surface. I want to thank the council for entertaining this and keeping this motion alive. And I also want to thank Council Member Weiss for appointing Melanie Cotto to the Horse Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Benson. So we'll instruct the planning department to provide a report in 30 days. And next item, we have to...
I believe it's item 8, Councilman. It's a zone change from the central APC. It's relative to a 39-unit condominium project.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Sarah Rigamat, City Planning staff. This project was a joint project with a subdivision, and the initial hearing was held back in November of last year. The Deputy Advisory Agency issued the tentative track in February, and it was approved with no appeals. We went to the Central Area Planning Commission in April, and the project was approved there as well, unanimous vote. Some of the concerns that were raised at the second hearing were that the area is underparked, and there were some complaints about the increased density. But at the initial hearing, all we had was 5 letters of support for the project. Also, at the Central Area Planning Commission, there was a speaker who brought up that the project on site might be a historic building. The applicant has provided a historic resource evaluation stating that the apartment on site is not historic. So we're recommending that the Planning and Land Use Committee support this project and offer that support to City Council.
Okay. All right, we do have 3 cards on this one. We have Andrew Schwartz, Brian Kern, and Mark Armbruster.
Hello, Councilman. My name is Brian Curran, representing Hollywood Heritage. My address is 855 South Highland Avenue, Los Angeles, California. Hollywood Heritage urges the committee to deny the applicant's request for approval on their mitigated negative declaration. We base our opposition on the fact that false statements were made on the applicant's initial environmental assessment form, which then caused the final MND to exclude essential environmental impact information on the property located at 1850 North Cherokee, which is a potential historic resource. The applicants claimed on their initial form that the existing property was built in the 1960s era. This was clearly untrue, as a Zima search would date the building from 1939. Had the applicants informed the Hollywood CRA of their project, they would have been able to address this issue, as well as learn that a current Hollywood Historic Resources survey had included their building. They would have also learned that a recent settlement between Hollywood Heritage and the CRA LA requires all permit requests affecting buildings over 50 years old to require a historic assessment. In conclusion, Hollywood Heritage believes that the Planning and Land Use Committee must deny approval of the MND, as they should be unable to approve, to base their approval on an incorrect and incomplete document. We would also request that a full historic evaluation of the building be done according to the settlement terms of the CRA.
And you're Brian Kern. Okay, thanks, sir. Andrew Schwartz. Good afternoon, sir.
My name is Andrew Schwartz. I'm the president of Hollywood Heritage. My address is 2509 Ivanhill Terrace, Los Angeles. Hollywood Heritage had an agreement with the developers that they would go through the CRA. And instead they did an end around and went through the Planning Commission. This building is built in 1939, not 1960s, as they stated. Therefore, as Mr. Kern had said before, NEIR was not prepared properly in this situation. It's our position that this should be sent back to have a proper EIR prepared, and the approval for the 39 units should be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have Mike Armbruster and then Ron Dalbeck, and that closes public hearing. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you. Mark Armbruster, Goldsmith, and Delbeck, 10940 Wilshire Boulevard, Los Angeles, representing the applicant. And we're here to urge you to support the unanimous approval of the Area Planning Commission on this project, which we believe is a well-thought-out and well-planned project for the area. The project also enjoys the unanimous support of the local neighborhood council, as well as the Chamber of Commerce. In addition, we've worked very closely with Councilman Labange's office with regard to the project. All these issues that have the issue that has been raised today was carefully analyzed. Mr. Delbach will speak very briefly to that issue, but again, we're here just to urge support of this project. And all of the approvals to date, the track map, the Area Planning Commission, there have been no appeals filed, and other than this, it has enjoyed tremendous support from the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Honorable Council Members, William Delvac of Armbruster, Goldsmith, and Delvac. The building that is on the property has never been previously evaluated or rated by the redevelopment agency as historic. When the plan was adopted in 1986, a survey was completed. It was not on that survey. When in 2003 the survey was updated, it was also not on that survey. I've recently met with the redevelopment agency, and they have completed no current reevaluation of any of the properties. There is a settlement agreement with Hollywood Heritage. We don't believe that in any particular way it necessarily affects this building. We went to the planning department first because that's the agency that has almost all of the actions that are necessary for the project. We believe the entire process has been appropriate, and we believe that the project should be approved. We respectfully urge that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I understand we have the council representing here.
Good afternoon, members. Renee Weitzer for Councilman Tom Labange. We are in support of this project. There are 19 units there now. We're going to have 39 units. I would just like to add one condition, if I may, and I handed it to the clerk. No demolition permit shall be issued for this property until a building permit for the project has been approved.
And that's something that's included with the staff report. That's a new condition?
That's a new condition, and the reason for it is that due to this economy at the present time, we would not want to have this building torn down and then have the applicant developer perhaps put the building up for sale after he has demolished it. So I'd like to have the building standing there with the tenants, and when they apply for a building permit and get it approved, we will support the project. We do support the project.
Okay, but you want to hold off on the demolition permit?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And I can forward this.
Please do. Any questions, my colleague? No? Okay, then that'll be the action. We'll approve this item with the condition as stated by the council deputy. All right, our next item.
That would be item 9, Councilman. This is a City Planning Commission proposed ordinance to establish a zone change and also the Loyola Village Community Design Overlay and Design Guidelines.
Good afternoon, Debbie Lawrence, City Planning Department. This is for the Loyola Village Community Design Overlay, which is a commercial district in the Westchester Playa del Rey Community Plan area. It's centered around Lincoln and Manchester, that intersection, and it's near Loyola Marymount University, Otis Art College of Design, and the Westchester Community Center and Park and Library. Most of the properties located in the boundaries are commercially zoned, with some multifamily and larger mixed-use properties. The community plan recommended a CDO for this area to promote a pedestrian-oriented environment and enhance district character. So the CDO consists of design guidelines and standards and certain queue conditions to regulate some requirements. Some of those queue conditions, the main ones, are requiring most of the ground floor facade to consist of doors and windows, prohibiting residential uses on the ground floor, requiring the main entrances to front the primary street, and requiring surface parking to the rear of the structures. So the design guidelines and standards and queue conditions would apply to new development and to alterations of existing properties in the CDO. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that explanation. We have with us Elizabeth Smagala. Good afternoon.
Liz Smagala, 1900 Avenue of the Stars, Los Angeles, 90067. I represent Decron Properties, developer of the already constructed project at the corner of Manchester and Lincoln. It falls within the proposed CDO area, and today we're requesting a technical amendment to one of the queue conditions for the CDO to protect the previously granted entitlements for that project. Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 13.08-8.6 states that community design overlay districts should protect the integrity of previously attained entitlements. The Playa del Oro project obtained its entitlements on May 19, 2004. Currently, as proposed, queue condition number 5 bars residential development on the ground floor. We are asking for an addition to that queue condition, which would state, notwithstanding the above, properties in the RAS4 zone located in the area specified in Ordinance number 175996 shall be permitted to have residential uses on the ground floor as authorized by that ordinance and subject to all conditions therein. I also submitted a letter explaining all this.
Now, have you had this conversation with the staff before?
Yes, I have, and the council.
And did this come before the commission as well?
It's already been before the
It
plan.
had already been passed? It already passed. Let me ask the staff to come on up.
Sure.
This request that we're hearing right now, was that already?
No, that was not before. It was passed by commission, it was approved by commission, but they had not heard this request at that time.
Okay, so this happened between commission and now?
Right, and
Have you heard of this request before?
yes, as the letter indicated, we had discussed this already.
And so what is the...
We're okay with it because the area that the parcel that they're talking about has already been, it has live-work units on the ground already, and we had put a queue in that prohibited residential development on the ground floor. So what they're asking for is to protect that existing property with and we're okay with it because of the location where that's located. It is
Okay.
surrounded
So
by
the language, that we
multifamily.
can accept that as a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Okay, so we can move on this item with the prescribed amendment, and that will be the action of this committee. Are you
Yes.
fine with that?
Yes.
Okay, so that'll be the action of this committee. Thank you. All right. Can I have to just give me 5 minutes? I'll be right back. Unless you want to continue that. Well, that's right.
That's what I was thinking. That's why I had to take a stop at that. Not Diana Lawrence. It's
Say Diana.
it's kind of. Kind of like. Why are the people still here for? On Harvard.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. So back to this next item?
That would be item 12, Councilman. It's a report from the North Valley APC. It's for a zone change, and it's for a 33-unit condominium project in CD 12.
This is item, which item is this again?
12, Council.
12.
Afternoon, Councilman.
How are you?
Good to see you. Real brief on this because Councilor District 7 would like to also speak on this item. The applicant has changed hands. They've actually sold this project, so there is no applicant here today. This project was approved by Area Planning Commission. The determination date was July 8th of 2008, almost a year ago. However, things have changed in terms of the fact that there is no applicant anymore. And the council office, a lot of this was predicated on the fact that this project is bisected between two jurisdictions, the City of Los Angeles and the City of San Fernando. Part of the assumption was that City of San Fernando was going to be accepting a higher density on their portion. That did not happen. And what in fact has happened is there is no longer an applicant on this project. They have not shown up today. They have totally sold the project. And the council office is requesting that this zone change be denied. And Council District 7 will come and represent that. But right now, I can only represent Planning Commission's approval of this project from July. But I will be happy to agree with what Council District 7 is asking. Okay.
Come on up. I think he stole your thunder.
Yeah, kind of. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Faisal Sari with Councilmember Richard Outcome's office. Just real quick, this is a pretty unique project. It's literally half on the City of LA and half on the City of San Fernando. The border, unlike most U.S. Jurisdictions, does not cross at a public right-of-way. It actually crosses on the property lines themselves. So the fence is right behind the Los Angeles properties. That's the border for the City of Los Angeles, and then it starts at the City of San Fernando.
So the bottom line is?
So bottom line, we're requesting a denial because there have been significant changes since APC heard this. Specifically, there was a change in leadership in the City of San Fernando, and they're no longer interested in entertaining this idea. The applicant is no longer pursuing this. And the denial should, Plum should instruct the planning department to make findings for denial based on the visual precedent that this would create. I just drove by there yesterday.
So you got us already, so.
I'm sorry?
We're going to move in your direction then.
Okay, cool.
Okay, that will be the action that's committed to deny.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also request the planning department to prepare the findings.
Yes, thank you, brother.
Thank
Our
you.
next item?
That would be item 14, Councilman. This is a hardship exemption request from Stuart Richland for the medical marijuana dispensaries ICO.
Honorable Committee, Stuart Richland on behalf of the applicant New Age Wellness. And we were before you last week. We're here on a continuance. I submitted a brief and a notebook containing some exhibits that I wanted the committee to see, and the clerk was kind enough to take them. In addition, my client has submitted some documents to show his expenses. He spent over $108,000 in an attempt to comply with the city instructions on what was needed to open up a medical marijuana dispensary.
Okay.
May it please the committee, we're here. We've got a few witnesses, and I'd be happy to address any questions or concerns, or I could talk about some of the points in my brief.
No, I think, again, given the amount of, but we want to make sure we have everyone who submitted cards be afforded the opportunity to speak. So we do have 1 minute for each speaker. And that would be, believe it's Richland?
That's me.
Okay, then you got Earl Tantrick for 1 minute, please. Then we'll have Steve Moore. And then Jerry Korashian. Come on up for 1 minute. I'll let him just...
Earl Tanchuk, 3128 Thatcher Avenue, Marina Del Rey. I'm the landlord of the property, and they've been good renters up to this point. Last November is when we first started the lease with them. They've complied with everything that's been necessary in the contract and with everything that the city has required from them. So I really have nothing to say except that they've been outstanding.
Thank you, sir.
They haven't been open yet, and everything they've done has helped support our business, which has had some problems, so we really can use that rent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Steve Mora on behalf of New Age Wellness. Just want to let you know I'm an employee there. I've been working there for 6 months. We have not opened yet. We've been working real hard to comply with all the regulations that you've set forth for the kind of business that we're trying to open. And it would just, be a severe hardship on myself, being that is, my planned employment for the future. I just happen to have a newborn that was just born, and just want to let you guys know that we're doing everything possible to comply with the ordinance that you guys have set, and that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. So, and then we have Leonard Schaefer, and then we'll have Marie Hammond.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Jay Karatian. I have been currently working for Mr. Moore for over 3 years now in his rehab company that he owns other than New Age Wellness, which is a company that we do provide physical, occupational, and speech therapy to geriatrics and convalescent hospitals. And Mr. Moore has been in the caregiver business for 20 plus years, and he has shown honor and dignity in such work and has the vast experience in the medical field. And I feel that he deserves this exemption, because if anybody deserves an exemption, is one with a high medical background that has the intentions of opening up such business for medical purposes under a nonprofit corporation, which Mr. Moore and his partner Luis Pais have done from the beginning and the get-go. Thank you very much. You guys have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Leonard Schaefer, Mary Hammond, and Barbara Gibson.
Good afternoon again, Leonard Schaefer. While I fully support the idea of the medical marijuana, I would ask that the hardship exemption be denied until such time as the city works out its new ordinances. I find it difficult to understand why this is called a business, when if you look at both the state law and the state attorney general and some of the recent California Supreme Court cases, these are supposed to be cooperatives amongst persons who are growing their own marijuana and distributing it amongst themselves in cooperatives in conjunction with their qualified caregivers as opposed to businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Marie Hammond, Barbara Gibson, and Yolanda Gonzalez, and please.
Yes, my name is Marie Hammond, and I live in the immediate neighborhood. There's another marijuana dispensary at 421. I have a map for you there so you can see the closeness and proximity. We have a homeless feeding center within, this map is from the LA County Tax Assessors. It's within 1,000 square feet. Okay. You have an at-risk youth center. You have the Venice Family Clinic, you have another marijuana facility, and you have a park just 1 block away, a nice green park where children play. I walked by the other dispensary on Rose the other day, and I smelled marijuana. Until you get some more regulations and restrictions to monitor these places, we do not need them. Also, the hardship, they said, I haven't seen any building and safety permits pulled for this establishment. I went online. I don't know if that's appropriate, and I'd also like to know why you don't let the community know when something like this is going in. There have been there's been no publication, nothing. So,
thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Before I get my time, could I just ask, is it only for this one, or is it for the ones around the area?
Only for this one.
Okay. I'm speaking as a mother and as a grandmother, as well as a property owner right near here.
And give me your name and address, please.
Oh, Barbara Gibson, 245 4th Avenue in Venice. I think that there aren't enough controls on these establishments, and that or restrictions, and it looks like they're opening up every 2 blocks now. There's 24 in Venice right now. Our healthcare system needs a lot of money, and it's like, why aren't doctors or pharmacists dispensing these? So I would ask you to go back to the drawing board and really come up with some really good restrictions on this. There are people that need the marijuana, but not the way you're doing it now, like coffee shops. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ilana Gonzalez will be our last speaker.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council representatives. Yolanda Gonzalez, past Vice President for the Venice Neighborhood Council. I'd like to state here that, first, there's not a community impact statement because our Venice Neighborhood Council has not been able to comply since we just started. We have an ad hoc committee which has just been instituted by a young man, Dexter O'Connell, who is a young man and wants to supply information based on what is happening with the young people of his generation as to this impact. Also, from what I understand here is what Mr. Schaefer said. I agree with everything he has. We have 160 applications that did apply with the city, and I am under the understanding that this one did not. And since 2008, we had 160, and up to this date, we have 600 already marijuana dispensaries. I have one right across the street from me on Venice. And I would like to request from this council to have a continuance, to have it be brought before our Venice Neighborhood Council, because this is the way it should be done, so we can provide you an impact as to what is happening within our community and what we are seeing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Kurt Moore.
Hi, I'm the president and owner of New Age Wellness. I've been a caretaker for over 20 years. We haven't opened because we've been trying to comply with all the rules and regulations. I've put out a tremendous amount of financials to get this project off the ground. We applied for the license before the moratorium came into effect. We're a non-smoking facility. I have a medical background. My partner is a hospital administrator. We think we're going to be an asset to the neighborhood, providing safety and security and uplifting the area. We have parking. We're going to be open from 10 to 8. And we're going to comply with everything that's under the moratorium, the regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our last speaker is Whitney Blumenfeld from the council office.
Good afternoon, council members. The applicant has invested a tremendous amount of money into the proposed dispensary, which is unfortunate because this is not grounds for an exemption. They should have registered before the ICO went into effect and not move forward with their investment. It should not be a build it first and then ask for forgiveness later. As you've heard from some of our speakers, there are sensitive uses in the area. There is a park really close by, a block away. Measured in a car, it is 1,060 feet. There is also another dispensary right in the area that is another 1,060 feet away, as well as a preschool. And as you've also heard, it is right across from the Venice Family Clinic, and as a result, we ask that this hardship exemption be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blumenfeld. And again, I just want to stress that based on the letter received from the council office and the testimony and review of the application, the fear of the federal government and the amount of investment and costs the applicant incurred because they did presume the hardship exemption would be granted does not justify granting of the hardship exemption. So we move to deny the hardship exemption. That would be the action of this committee. Okay, next item, Bertha.
That would be item 15, Councilman. It's an appeal by Scott Diamond, representing the Beverlywood Homeowners Association, and Susan Gans. And she's on behalf of the homeowners opposed to museum expansion. What's before you is the track map for the Museum of Tolerance.
Good afternoon, council members. Maya Zaitsevsky, Planning. I was the deputy advisory agency for this tract map. I took it under advisement, waited for the City Planning Commission to act on the proposed plan amendment zone change that was associated with the museum next door. And once they acted on that and certified the EIR, then I approved the tract map. It was appealed by the same appellants to the City Planning Commission. They denied the appeals, and now it is here before you again with basically the same points that were brought up at the previous hearing. And the issues mostly have to do with the museum expansion, not the airspace subdivision with this map. So we recommend that you deny the appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 speaker cards on this. We have Eliza Pastor and Laura Lake. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Elisa Pastor from Paul Hastings, 515 South Flower Street, on behalf of the applicant. We ask that you deny the appeals by Home and by the Beverlywood Homes Association today, as they are without merit. By way of background, as Maya stated, the council approved the entitlements for the museum project last week, and at that time they approved a public benefit approval for the use of the West Wing by the museum. So today the only thing that you have before you is a very technical matter. It's only the tract map, and it's an airspace tract map, and the museum needs that to be able to transfer ownership of that tract map from another entity to the museum. We have actually reached an agreement with the Beverlywood Homes Association, and so they are not here today, and they do not object to denial of their appeal. So in summary, we think it's a fairly simple matter, and we ask for denial of the appeals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Laura Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. I am here in behalf of Susan Gans, who had a work conflict, and Dr. Fink, who's out of the country. I'm going to cut to the request, which is that you postpone acting on this request until the companion EIR is finalized for the EULA school expansion, because there's an interrelationship between the two properties, and this is piecemealing the approval process. And I would ask you to consider the request that people sit down again and consider redesign. So, not having been involved at all, but knowing CEQA process, I urge you to deny this approval, because the airspace involves the EULA project and the Museum of Tolerance. So until you have both of them in front of you, it's premature to approve the tract map.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Councilmember? Okay. So the activist will be to deny the appeals filed by Scott Diamond and Susan Gans, and hereby sustained entire determination from the Planning Commission approving the vesting tract map. That'll be action of this committee. Our next item?
Next item is item 16A and 16B, Councilman. They're interrelated. 16A is the general plan amendment. 16B is the appeal by Mr. Yuval Kramer, and this has to do with a mixed-use project for an 80-unit project in CD5.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Jay Kim. I was a public hearing officer for this project. As mentioned, there are 2 parts to this action that's before you. One is the plan amendment zone change and height district change. The plan amendment is a request to increase the current FAR to 4:1 and the height to 87 feet in lieu of the 45 feet that is currently on the zone. The CPC acted in April and issued a determination in May to approve that. And staff is recommending that the council concur with that and sustain that action. The second part is the appeal to the other entitlements involved with the project, which is a conditional use for the sale of alcohol for off-site consumption in conjunction with a ground floor specialty market. It also involves an adjustment to increase the number of units. It's a nominal increase from 85 to 88 and a site plan review. I can go over the appeal items if you like at this point, or follow up after.
What I'd like to do is hear from the appellants and why they're appealing, and maybe in that process we can be clear as to why
Sounds good.
they're
And
taking
there-
that position.
Just to add, there is one additional condition that staff would like to add. It is an inadvertent oversight, and that's in regards to the condition used to limit the lifetime of that to 10 years.
Okay.
And I did submit that.
Okay, and who are the appellants on this one?
It's the life term of the CUP for the condition,
Okay.
yeah, for 10 years.
Okay. Let's hear from the appellant. Come on up, please. Give us your name and address and the reason for your appeal.
Yuval Kramer, 117.5 South Croft Avenue, LA, 90048.
Good afternoon.
First, I wanted to deal with an ethics issue. Do you have that document in front of you that I submitted with regards to Councilman Weiss? I'd like him to recuse himself and not vote on this matter, and I'd like to explain why.
Well, give us your explanation.
Okay. I'm requesting that he be disqualified and recuse himself from voting. The reason is that he allowed and accepted Mr. Rick Caruso holding a fundraiser for him recently at the same time that this application project was being handled by his council office. The fundraiser took place on the evening of April 30th at Mr. Caruso's home. In conjunction with this event, Mr. Caruso personally solicited contributions for Councilmember Weiss using Caruso-affiliated letterhead. He asked recipients to mail their forms and contributions to an employee of Caruso Affiliated, which is highly unusual, it seems to me. The fundraiser, taken together with the sample letter attached, bundled contributions submitted through a middleman, and almost $10,000 in contributions from just Mr. Caruso and other officers and employees at Caruso Affiliated, should lead you to the conclusion I've reached above using the legal requirements that I'm about to explain. And there's two legal arguments that I have. One being certain decisions made by city officials are considered to be quasi-judicial decisions, like this one. Under the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, those with an interest at stake in these kinds of decisions must be afforded due process before a decision is rendered. This includes a fair and impartial decision maker. A relationship with a participant would require the disqualification of the official. And then my second legal reason is the common law doctrine of conflicts of interest, specifically Noble versus City of Palo Alto and subsequent cases. Under this doctrine, the general rule is that no official should place himself or herself in a position where his or her personal interest is in conflict with his or her duty to serve the public. Common law bias includes non-financial personal interests. If the bias exists, an official must be disqualified from participating in discussions and voting on the matter.
Do you have any land use basis for your appeals?
Yeah, having discussed that. First, I'd like to note that the planning department was very, at the CPC hearing, was very opposed to the length of the trucks. This project does not have a loading dock, and they would be loading on a residential street, a narrow residential street, Colgate. And so in the findings of the city planning recommendation report, it was stated, loading and unloading of goods is proposed to take place on the curbside along Colgate Avenue, just east of the commercial driveway. Ideally, all loading and unloading should be conducted on site without backing onto the street to minimize noise disruption and traffic bottleneck effect. The fact that the existing queue condition on the subject property explicitly prohibits curbside loading and unloading demonstrates the historical traffic problems that this would generate. Can I go on? However, due to design challenges on a triangular site to incorporate on-site loading docks, impacts caused by loading and unloading on curbside would be mitigated by the restriction on delivery hours during off-peak hours, no delivery between 5 to 7 p.m. Note that they did not put a restriction on the a.m. rush hour, the a.m. peak hours. In addition, the plans submitted by the applicant shows a 65-foot-long truck on the curbside. Colgate and Ladue are designated local streets dedicated to a 30-foot half-street width. Based on staff's research, a smaller tractor having a single drive axle six-wheeler is often used to pull shorter trailers in tight urban environments where a 60-foot rig would be too difficult to maneuver. A truck is considered a full unit at 48 feet long with a shorter unit at 28 feet. As such, a maximum overall vehicle length is conditioned at 48 feet. And the CPC brushed aside the concerns of the planning department and approved the long trucks anyway. And I would ask that that restriction be imposed on the length of the trucks. That's for starters.
Please
Should I go?
conclude. Well, okay, go ahead and finish, please.
Okay. Essentially, Mr. Caruso is trying to cram a very large project on a lot that is too small and a supermarket in an inappropriate location that will create traffic havoc. Mr. Caruso kept the project secret from the neighbors for at least half a year while it was going through several meetings at the Mid-City West Community Council, which is the local neighborhood council. I went door to door to tell the immediate neighbors across the street on Ladue Road. The neighbors on Ladue are renters in low-rise buildings. They said they didn't know about the project and that they would be opposed to it. Ladue Road and Colgate Avenue are narrow, quiet residential streets. Caruso's property is zoned for office use with a 45-foot height limit and large setbacks from the streets that surround it. Instead, Mr. Caruso is asking for close to double the height with little or no setbacks, building right to the edge or close to the edge of his property with a Trader Joe's that will not have a loading dock with a residential tower above it. It is completely out of character and scale with its surroundings. Even most of the commercial buildings on that stretch of La Cienega Boulevard are 1- or 2-story buildings. It will create a traffic and parking nightmare. The neighbors will be staring at a 90-foot wall with an FAR of 4 to 1.
Does that conclude your
I think
statement?
that's pretty good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay, so let's go through our cards, and we do have the applicant with us, Rick Caruso, Mr. Rick Caruso, and we have Mr. Craig Lawson as well. Come on up.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I can speak for as long as you like or as short as I like. There's a handout which I'm presenting that talks about the project, or I can just skip to speaking about the appeal.
If you'd like to address the appeal, and that would get us to the essence of the issues.
Okay, sounds good. In terms of the appeal for Mr. Kramer, I just do want to point out that Mr. Kramer did not speak against the project at the hearing officer hearing, the Planning Commission hearing, nor did he submit comments while the MND was circulated, and he submitted his appeal on the very last day for this process here. We have submitted detailed response in writing to all of his comments, which we have submitted, and we believe that all the issues that he have raised do not have merit and have been fully addressed by the environmental analysis, which has been extensive. And though he objects to the height of the building, he told us he would be okay with our proposed heights if it would be a hotel rather than an apartment building with a market. The community has been very clear that they want to have a local market back in their community. This project also is already adjacent to the new SLS hotel, so we do not believe a hotel is the proper use. We clearly have a difference of opinion between him, quite frankly, and the rest of the community who we've met with over the last year and a half, and we request that you reject his last-minute appeal. And then finally, I think it's addressed, we are seeking a small modification to Condition 11, which was addressed in a letter to the committee dated June 11th regarding on-site parking. And then I also want to clarify that as a voluntary measure, we have agreed as the applicant to pay $100,000 to the City of Los Angeles LADOT for the development and construction of a new traffic signal and mid-block crossing at the intersection of La Jolla and 3rd Street. The funds will be paid at the time the applicant receives his first building permit for construction of the project. We just want that for the record. Thank you, sir.
In terms of the public benefits, I see in your handout on number 5, in removing 2 existing double-faced billboards, you're able to remove them as you acquired the property?
The billboards are on our property, and we own those billboards.
You own them, okay.
So we're able to remove them.
Okay,
We do
because
control
that's quite a feat, because I've tried that on other buildings, and to remove those billboards is pretty tough. So as long as you own them, I guess you can remove them. All right. In terms of housing opportunities, I know we mentioned when we spoke to this before, but the notion of mixed income, how does that fit into this scenario, or does it?
In terms of the housing side, sir?
Yes.
Well, Listen, I think it's a terrific public policy, and we support it. And our issue is here, there's only so many public benefits that we can support. The public benefit the community asked for loud and clear was a market. Markets typically are not the best rent payers, and it's consuming the whole ground floor of the building. So what I would ask for your consideration is, in light of the subsidy that's going to a market for the community, that the subsidy for the housing be waived or not imposed on this project.
Okay. Hopefully in the future, folks who are engaged in development with the history of your company and other companies in the city, we can get to a place where we can start speaking to where that could happen and under what financial scenarios it could be actually realized. And that's a subject that we'll probably be entering in the near future.
I completely understand, and I agree with that.
Thank you, Mr. Crusoe. We have any questions? Mr. Craig Lawson, and then Mr. Jim McQuestion.
For the record, Craig Lawson, land use consultant on behalf of the applicant. There was reference that we're asking for slight modification in the terminology on condition number 11. It's a Q condition, and there's been a couple of different versions going around, so I just want to make sure you have in front of you the most current version, though I'm not quite sure.
And I'm assuming the staff does have the most current version?
Staff has that version.
Okay, so if that's been submitted, then we're fine.
And I believe
Are we
the staff
okay?
is okay.
You have it. The clerk has it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Okay, next group of speakers, we have anyone else affiliated with the applicant that feels compelled to speak? Seeing the room, we'll move forward with Jim McQuestion, Laura Lake.
Jim McQuestion.
Good afternoon, sir.
I want to make it clear that I'm not particularly concerned with the actual development. I'm only concerned with the process. And as you know, I was more or less poleaxed by a decision out in the North Valley some time ago, which I've talked to you many times about. And after reading the Supreme Court reports, it looks like we're way off the matter. But as far as I want to say about this $100,000 and whatnot, that's already been gone through in the federal court. That is not proper. And so some people could call it something else rather than a contribution. I don't think we really want to talk about this kind of contribution as being a plus factor on deciding land use issues. This particular one is not nearly as objectionable to me on process as the, I think it was number 11, which has been continued, because it involves a larger area. My contention would be, if we're going to have this kind of development in this particular area, let's rezone the entire zone. These are small zones. If we rezone the entire zone, then there's no objection.
Thank you, Mr. McQuestion.
The Supreme Court has said so.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. Ms. Lowry?
Thank you very much. I have two different statements. That's why I filled out two different cards. One is for my client, the Burton Way Foundation. You have a letter of support for this project. During the past year, Mr. Hahn has met with the developer, asked for changes. They've been made. And in addition, his organization retained a traffic consultant who was satisfied with the traffic impacts in the area, so that he is very strongly in support of this project, particularly because it brings a market which the area hasn't had since Ralph's left the Beverly connection. But that's another story.
Okay, thank you.
So, do you want me to start the next?
Yes,
okay.
please.
Now I'm speaking for myself. I've been at the prior hearing. I spoke in support of this project as well. And I wanted to go over a few rebuttal points from the appeal. One is that the statement was made in the appeal that there was no traffic study. There was a traffic study. The next is that there's a parking shortfall. There's a parking surplus. Not only are there 10 above code required spaces, but across the street at the Lomans, there'll be 25 employee parking spaces. So this is a very well-parked project. The next is that there was a figure of $500,000 out of the air for traffic calming. In fact, 15 years ago, Mr. Caruso put in traffic calming measures of partial cul-de-sacs. So the local area is protected, and there isn't a need for it. It would be duplicative. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lake. And next speaker, Noel Weiss, Sarah Burke, Andrew Lockman, and Vincent Arturo, I believe. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, council members. Rather than basically be redundant, I think what we're talking about here is obviously a discretionary act. There's no by right entitlement here. We're talking about an 87-foot structure on a corner where you have La Cienega, San Vicente, and Burton Way basically all intersecting. The key issue relative to the off-site parking, the infrastructure does not support this degree of density. The reason being they don't even have the ability to load on site. They have to load from the street. There is no adequate mitigation for that, and there's no justification for that exception. Secondly, in terms of the economics of the project, if the developer wants to come into you and say, okay, we want to have this project and the economics are thus and so, then he needs to share that basically with the people so that there can be the kind of discussion that you indicated, Mr. Reyes. 3, we've got the cumulative analysis I don't think is very sufficient here. There's apparently 55 potential projects either online that have not been evaluated. The issue of the employee parking as well has not been evaluated.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Thank you very much. Sarah Burke, and Lockman, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Burke. I'm a resident in the immediate vicinity of the proposed project, 9191 Burton Way. For a couple of years, the community input, I believe, has shaped this project, and the community does support this project. Our neighborhood has requested a specialty store, and the Caruso Company is bringing Trader Joe to the area. And I've lived in the area for now well over 10 years, and having this specialty store serving our neighborhood directly and having an upscale apartment, I think will certainly improve the Triangle property and certainly get rid of the billboards there on that property. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of friends and neighbors in the neighborhood when I say that given Caruso's other projects like the Grove and a few others, I'm comfortable that they will be done with much thoughtfulness and regard for the neighborhoods, and I don't think it will impact the neighborhood in a negative way. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Andrew Lockman and Vincent Arturo.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
By the way, Councilman, as I know your term's winding down, I want to thank you and Maya for coming to our councils. You know, we don't always agree on everything, but you always came to listen to what we had to say, and we appreciate it. Very quickly, this entire project has been a model with how organizations and companies should work with neighborhood councils. They came to us 6 to 8 months in advance, asked us what we thought should be done with the property. We don't have a grocery store in a 1.5 mile radius from that location. This encourages people in the community to have a grocery store since we lost the Ralphs, and there's no sign that Ralphs is coming back. Secondly, I would say it passed overwhelmingly through our neighborhood council as a result of their willingness to work and make the changes that we asked for, including, by the way, the loading zone is next to another loading zone on the hotel. The street they're talking about has a hotel on one side, their development on another, so it's not fully residential. And that's why it passed by something close to 27 to 29 to 2 or 3. Finally, what I will say is that, you know, there was suggestion about being a hotel in the area. We have 10 hotels in the area. I can name them very easily. We don't have a grocery store. We need that. I do want to close by thanking Caruso for working with us and making all the changes that we asked for. We look forward to hopefully working with them in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our last speaker, Vincent Arturo.
Councilmember Reyes and members of the council, thank you for your time. I too would like to thank Councilmember Weiss for his support of the Mid-City West Community Council and his deputy, who was always there at the Land Use Committee hearings. I'm a member also of the Mid-City West Board, along with the Land Use Committee, and the Caruso-affiliated folks were very open to helping us and assisting us with anything that we needed. I believe that the community support overall is positive on this particular project. The community badly needs a supermarket within walking distance, and this project will provide that. I believe that most of the community can look at the projects that have been completed by Caruso and see that they are of quality, essence, and they add to the beautification and the essence of Los Angeles. This property really is at the gateway of the jewels of Los Angeles, and I believe if you were to take this particular property and turn it into what the project goal is, it will be a very quality project that a lot of folks will be able to be a part of, and on top of that, the city will also benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your statement. I believe that concludes the public hearing. Councilmember?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we approve the project, that we deny the appeal. I would note that in addition, or just to summarize some of the statements that you've heard about this project, it's a project that received neighborhood council approval, unanimous approval from the City Planning Commission, even this homeowner association that likes to fight projects over there, which I've only seen one member of the homeowner association during my 8 years, but he's a guy who follows these things.
Contest,
he supports it, right? I mean, so the one guy who's got this woman here who's for him today. It's a mixed-use project. Mixed use is appropriate along La Cienega. They're supporting additional height in this neighborhood. It has a pedestrian-oriented design. You've heard about the need for the specialty market. You've also heard about the current visual blight of the property itself, which is basically a parking lot with billboards which will be removed. And you've also heard that the applicant has volunteered $100,000 for the public valet program on 3rd Street, which is a big deal for the community. Other projects are doing that as well. And so the long and short of it is that they've done everything right. It's a good project, and we should deny the appeal. And it was significant when they noted that this is an appeal. You know, everyone has the right to file them. This one is just completely out of left field with no connection to any of the process that's been going on so far, and you know, it was sort of incoherent, frankly. Let's deny it.
Okay. So I'll be seconding that motion to deny the appeal. That'll be the action of this committee.
Okay, you have to take action on the general plan amendment and zone change that was requested that's associated with the project. And
Yes.
what will that action be?
That would be to approve.
Thank you.
Yes. So thank you. So that's the action of that committee. Is that everything, Roberto?
Yes, Councilman, except there's item 17, the plan department's report.
Right. Okay. We do have one card for public comment, and that's Laura Weiss.
Good afternoon. Comment number one, SB 1818 projects. Council in February of 2008 asked the planning department, in fact directed the planning department to provide a list of all the SB 1818 projects in the intervening year, what's in the pipeline, what got developed, how much affordable housing was lost versus how much affordable housing was gained. It's now June of 2009. I would like to have the planning department produce that information for you, the policymakers, as well as for the public. Second point is the city attorney current position apparently is that voluntary track map conditions that are volunteer, like we did, for example, with Willoughby, La Brea, affordable housing. Those conditions that are volunteered as conditions in the track map, apparently the city attorney's position is that they're not enforceable. I would like the city council and planning department to confirm and have a public debate on that, Mr. Reyes, and so that essentially we can confirm if that's accurate, and if it is, then we need to, you know, get the policy changed or ratified or something, okay? Because people are relying on the fact that, apparently the planning department's relying on the fact that I guess it doesn't matter what people volunteer. So, thank you very much.
Just before we adjourn, Councilmember, I wanted to be able to also add to the record that the approval of item number 16A will also include the modification of condition number 11 as requested.
Yes. Thank you, Barbara, for that. That concludes this meeting. Seeing no one else, this meeting is adjourned.
Just 1 second.
We got 500 more to go.